Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will set fire to you, and it shall consume every green tree and every dry tree. The blazing flame shall not be quenched, and all faces from south to north shall be scorched by it. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 47. The holy city of God, chosen among all nations, destroyed twice, razed to its foundations, its people killed, enslaved, scattered across the world. Why did God allow it? Or worse, why did God command it? The truth about the destruction of Jerusalem will shake your faith. This is the portal to the unknown, where we reveal the most disturbing truths they try to hide from you. If you have the courage to face the dark side of God, to understand divine judgment without religious filters, subscribe to the channel now, activate the bell, and leave your like because this video is going to be disturbing. Share it with those who question everything. We are going to reveal the brutal truth. Let's get straight to the most shocking historical facts in the Bible. Jerusalem, the city of David, the place where God put his name, the holy mountain, was completely destroyed not once, but twice. In 586 BC by the Babylonians and in 70 AD by the Romans. Two events separated by more than 600 years, but with a terrifying pattern. God using pagan nations to massacre his own chosen people. 2 Kings chapter 25 describes the first destruction in brutal detail. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, besieged Jerusalem. The siege lasted so long that there was extreme famine in the city. When they finally breached the walls, King Zedekiah tried to flee. He was captured. The Babylonians executed his sons in front of him, then gouged out his eyes so that the last thing he would see was the murder of his own children. Then they took him in chains to Babylon's Solomon's temple, that architectural marvel described in minute detail in 1 Kings, covered in gold, decorated with cherubim. The place where God's glory dwelt was completely sacked. 2 Kings chapter 25 verses 13 through 17. They broke the bronze pillars, the bases, the bronze sea, and took everything. Then they burned the temple, the royal palace, and all the important houses. They demolished the walls of Jerusalem, but the worst was not the physical destruction. It was the human massacre. Verse 21, the captain of the guard executed all the leaders at Riblah. The population was deported en masse to Babylon. The poor who remained were left to cultivate vineyards and fields as slaves in their own land. Israel ceased to exist as a nation for 70 years, and here is what will fry your brain. God ordered this. It was not a historical accident, nor an unexpected military defeat. It was planned divine judgment, announced for decades through the prophets. Jeremiah spent 40 years warning that God would bring the Babylonians to destroy Jerusalem. Jeremiah chapter 25, verses 8 and 9. Therefore thus says the Lord of hosts, because you have not obeyed my words, behold, I will send and get all the tribes of the north, declares the Lord, and I will send for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and I will bring them against this land and against its inhabitants. Did you read that? God called Nebuchadnezzar, a pagan idolatrous king, my servant. The man who destroyed the temple, massacred the people of God, and burned the holy city, was God's servant carrying out divine orders. This is not creative theological interpretation. It is explicitly written. Ezekiel had even more disturbing visions. Ezekiel chapter 8 describes God showing the prophet the abominations happening inside the temple itself. Elders of Israel worshipping idols in secret chambers, women weeping for Tammuz, men worshipping the sun in the inner court of the temple. And then, in Ezekiel chapter 9, God orders the massacre. Ezekiel chapter 9 verses 5 and 6. To the others he said, as I listened, go through the city after him and strike. Do not let your eye pity nor spare anyone. Utterly slay old men, young men and virgins, little children and women, but do not touch anyone on whom is the mark. And begin at my sanctuary. God ordering the genocide of his own people starting at the temple. Old men, young men, virgins, little children, women, all marked for death. Before executing the judgment, Ezekiel chapter 10 describes the glory of God abandoning the temple. The divine presence, which had inhabited the Holy of Holies since Solomon left. God abandoned his own house before destroying it. The symbolism is devastating. When God abandons, destruction is inevitable. Lamentations, probably written by Jeremiah, describes the suffering during the Babylonian siege in nauseating language. Lamentations chapter 2 verse 20. Look, O Lord, and consider, with whom have you dealt thus? Should women eat their offspring, the children of their tender care? Women eating their own children because of the extreme famine during the siege. Lamentations chapter 4 verse 10 confirms, the hands of compassionate women have cooked their own children. They became food for them in the destruction of the daughter of my people. Maternal cannibalism, mothers cooking and eating their babies. And this happened in the city of God, under divine judgment. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 53 through 57 had already prophesied this as a curse for disobedience. But wait, it gets worse. Ezekiel chapter 4, verses 12 through 15. God commands Ezekiel to do something utterly repulsive as a symbolic prophecy. He was to cook bread using human feces as fuel, eat it before the people as a sign that they would eat defiled bread among the nations. Ezekiel protested, and God allowed animal dung to be used instead. But the point remains, God using excrement as a prophetic tool to shock the people. The question no one in the church dares to ask is why? Why destroy so brutally? The official answer is idolatry, social injustice, breach of covenant. But think of the disproportionality. Children being killed, babies being eaten, an entire nation enslaved for 70 years, the temple destroyed. All this because religious leaders were corrupt and the people worshipped idols. Jeremiah chapter 19 verses 5 and 6 brings a specific accusation. And have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons in the fire for burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or speak, nor did it come into my mind. Therefore, behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when this place shall no more be called Topheth, or valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. The people were sacrificing children to Molech in the valley of Hinnom. Child holocaust. So God ordered total destruction as punishment. But here is the theological problem. Innocent children died in the divine judgment too. The children who were not being sacrificed to Molech, who were innocent victims, were massacred along with the guilty. Does divine justice not distinguish between the guilty and the innocent when executing collective judgment? Isaiah chapter 13 describes what the day of the Lord's wrath will be like. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel, with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate and destroy its sinners from it. Their infants will be dashed in pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be plundered and their wives ravished. Did you read that? In the prophecy of divine judgment, infants being dashed in pieces and wives being violated are part of the package. God using extreme violence, including violence against women, as a tool of judgment. How does this reconcile with God is love? Some theologians argue that these descriptions are poetic hyperbole, not literal. But historical records confirm that all this happened exactly like this. Babylonian chronicles, archaeological documents, layers of ash and destruction found in excavations all confirm Jerusalem was absolutely massacred. Jeremiah was the prophet of destruction. He warned, he wept, he pleaded, and he was hated for it. Jeremiah chapter 20 verses 7 through 8. O Lord, you deceived me, and I was deceived. You are stronger than I, and you have prevailed. I have become a laughingstock all the day. Everyone mocks me. For whenever I speak, I cry out, I shout, violence and destruction. For the word of the Lord has become for me a reproach and derision all day long. Jeremiah was so traumatized by preaching destruction that he went so far as to curse the day he was born. Jeremiah chapter 20, verses 14 through 18. He was thrown into a miry cistern, nearly died, and was considered a traitor because he said resisting the Babylonians was resisting God. and he was right. Those who surrendered survived. Those who resisted died horribly. Daniel and his friends were taken captive in the first wave of deportation, Daniel chapter 1. Young nobles torn from their families, taken to Babylon, forced to learn pagan language and culture. Some were castrated to serve as eunuchs in the palace. And yet, God used Daniel to interpret the dreams of the king who had destroyed his city. The Roman destruction in 70 AD was even more brutal. Jesus prophesied this in Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 and 2. As Jesus left the temple and was walking away, his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. "Do you see all these things?" he asked. "Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down." The second temple, rebuilt after the Babylonian exile and magnificently expanded by Herod, would be completely destroyed. And it was. In 70 AD, after a Jewish revolt against Rome, General Titus besieged Jerusalem. The historian Josephus, who personally witnessed it, describes unimaginable horrors. During the Roman siege, the famine was so extreme that cannibalism occurred again. Josephus records a woman named Mary who killed, cooked, and ate her own baby, offering half to the hungry rebels. When the Roman soldiers finally entered the city, they were so disgusted by the carnage that many vomited. 1,100,000 Jews died during the siege and destruction of Jerusalem by Rome, according to Josephus. 97,000 were captured and sold into slavery. The temple was burned. The Roman soldiers, looking for molten gold among the stones, literally disassembled the temple stone by stone, fulfilling Jesus' prophecy to the letter. But here is what makes you uneasy. Jesus wept over Jerusalem. Luke chapter 19, verses 41 through 44. As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, "If you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it is hidden from your eyes. The days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment against you and encircle you and hem you in on every side. They will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you." Jesus knew what was coming, wept because of it, but did not prevent it. Worse, he himself prophesied it as part of the divine plan. Jerusalem rejected the Messiah, so it would be destroyed. Cause and consequence. But again, innocent children, the children within your walls, would be wiped out along with them. Matthew chapter 23, verses 37 and 38. "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you. How often I have longed to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. The house was left desolate. The temple was destroyed." Israel ceased to exist as a nation for over 1,800 years until 1948. The Jewish people were scattered across the entire world, persecuted, massacred in pogroms, and nearly exterminated in the Holocaust. Is all this part of the continuous divine judgment? Or at some point did it stop being God's judgment and simply become human evil? Replacement theology argues that the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD proved that God rejected Israel and transferred his promises to the church. But Paul in Romans chapters 9 through 11 explicitly rejects this idea. Romans chapter 11 verse 1, "I ask then, did God reject his people? By no means. So what happened? Israel was disciplined, severely, brutally, but not permanently rejected. Was the return to the land in 1948, after 2,000 years of dispersion, a prophetic fulfillment? Is Ezekiel chapter 37, the vision of dry bones coming to life, about this? But there are prophets who say a third judgment is still coming. Zechariah chapter 14 verse 2, "For I will gather all the nations to Jerusalem to fight against it. The city will be captured, the houses ransacked, and the women raped. Half of the city will go into exile, but the rest of the people will not be taken from the city." Does this text speak of a future judgment not yet fulfilled? Or was it fulfilled in the past destructions? Preterist interpretation says all this has already happened. Futurist interpretation says a final tribulation is coming where Jerusalem will be besieged again before Christ's return. Revelation chapter 11 speaks of two prophets who will prophesy in Jerusalem for 1260 days, then be killed. Their bodies lying in the streets for 3.5 days while the world celebrates. Is this literal? Is it symbolic? If it is literal, it means Jerusalem will face apocalyptic persecution yet. The temple was destroyed twice. Will there be a third temple? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 3 and 4 speaks of the Antichrist sitting in the temple of God, proclaiming to be God. If there is no temple, how will this happen? Orthodox Jews already have detailed plans to rebuild the temple, have manufactured sacred utensils, and have identified potential priests from the lineage of Aaron. They are only waiting for the right political moment, but rebuilding the temple would require demolishing the Dome of the Rock, the third holiest site in Islam, built exactly where the Holy of Holies stood. This would trigger a world war. Is this what the prophecies describe? Eschatological conflict centered in Jerusalem? The disturbing reality is that Jerusalem, the city of peace, has been a center of violence, destruction, and suffering for 3,000 years. Even today, it is one of the most disputed and violent cities in the world. Jews, Christians, and Muslims claim sacred rights over it. Each group has prophecies about possessing it in the end times. Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 through 27, the prophecy of the 70 weeks, is one of the most debated and controversial in the Bible. It describes a precise chronology from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah is cut off, followed by the destruction of the city and the sanctuary by the prince who is to come. Then it speaks of a last week, 7 years of tribulation, a broken covenant in the middle, and the abomination of desolation. Did this prophecy fulfill completely with Christ's first coming and the Roman destruction? Or is there a double fulfillment, with the last week still future? Dispensationalists argue that there is a gap between the 69th and 70th weeks, lasting 2,000 years, and that the last week will be the Great Tribulation. Jesus in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15, speaks of the abomination of desolation predicted by Daniel as a sign of imminent tribulation. Did this happen when the Romans defiled the temple, or will it happen again in the future? The answer determines whether we are living in the last days or not. Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48 describe in meticulous architectural detail a future temple greater and more glorious than any before. Will it be literal? Will it be built during the millennium? Or is it merely symbolic of God's presence with his people? Orthodox Jews believe it will be literal. Dispensational Christians agree. Others say it is an allegory of the church. What is undeniable is that God showed no mercy when judging Jerusalem in the 2 previous destructions. He allowed extreme brutality, indescribable suffering, and the massacre of innocents. If he did this to his chosen people, what will he do to the rest of the world in the final judgment? 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intense heat. And the earth and its works will be burned up. Since all these things are to be destroyed in this way, what sort of people ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be destroyed by burning, and the elements will melt with intense heat. If Jerusalem, the holy city, was not spared, no place will be. If God's temple was burned twice, in the final judgment, the earth itself will be consumed by fire. The destruction of Jerusalem was not just a historical event. It was a prelude to the global apocalyptic judgment that is coming. Amos chapter 5, verse 18. Woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. Why would you have the day of the Lord? It is darkness and not light. People think the day of the Lord will be glorious, but it will be terrible, a day of darkness, destruction, and judgment without mercy. The destruction of Jerusalem is not just ancient history. It is a prophetic warning of what happens when God executes judgment. If he did not spare his chosen people, his holy city, his own temple, what makes you think you will be spared? If this video disturbed you, share it now. How many people do you know who need to understand the seriousness of divine judgment? Tag them in the comments. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because here at the Portal to the Unknown, we reveal truths that others are afraid to speak. And tell me, was God just in destroying Jerusalem so brutally? Is judgment coming again? Comment! Until the next apocalyptic mystery,